Israel apartheid state, but you have this dynamic where Miriam Adelson has contributed hundreds of millions of dollars to Donald Trump, paying for his campaign. This is an Israeli asset. And now, and this goes to the Tony Blair question that Piers asked, Larry Ellison has contributed something like $300 million to the Tony Blair Institute. And they're going to use that to collect the data of people in Gaza who will be put in, as the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation said in its internal documents, biometric concentration camps after they're ethnically cleansed from the north. And all of
Oh my goodness. Message. Alan Dershowitz goose was cooked the moment Max Blumenthal showed up on Piers Morgan Uncensored, and I was all here for it. All here for it. It was glorious. Because here's the thing. When it comes to vouching for a settler colonial state, and I find this very interesting. A lot of times people will vouch for others if they see themselves in them. So people like Alan Dershowitz sees himself in the people who are committing settler colonialism. Let's call it like it is. He sees himself in them. And so Max Blumenthal called it all out, and he pressed him. And so one of the things, before we get right into that, I want to share a couple things, because it is getting dangerous out here. Because a lot of people, especially, are now starting to notice what is going on with people are now starting to notice what's going on in our country. I want to share this first because this is making the rounds on social media. And this is why people like not just Alan Dershowitz, but people like Ben Shapiro, Jonathan Greenblatt, they are, and Benjamin Netanyahu, they're scared. Let's take a look here. Guys, Gen Z is waking the hell up. Let's take a listen.
Hey, to everyone that supports Nick Fuentes, just know, bro, he switched up. APAC paid him 241 grand to support their twisted agenda, bro. APAC is not good, bro. All the politicians, you know, they have their APAC guys controlling
every single congressman has an APAC guy.
Wake up.
Every single one. Wake up, bro. Our government is controlled by Israel, and we don't even know, bro. Wake up. Literally. Nobody realizes, bro. You vote for these people, bro. Your vote's not going to anything.
You're voting for Israel. No matter what you vote for, you're voting for Israel.
You're voting for an actor.
There's no point in even following a political party.
Literally.
That's the truth of it. And George Washington warned about the two-party system ever since the beginning. Right before he died, he was talking about the two-party system, and nobody listened.
Nobody listened. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now, bro. And you have fucking people, the Charlie Kirk killer, and Trump is blaming on the fucking Democrats for a reason. Wake up.
They're trying to divide us.
They're
trying to divide us. Stand together and stand against.
So Republicans hate Democrats and Democrats hate Republicans. It's going to be like that for as long as we know.
That's exactly how they want it. That's exactly what they want.
Exactly.
Unite, and wake up together,
woke,
bro.
Wake the fuck up, bro.
Stay woke.
Wake up.
Message. It's crazy. Yo, this is getting intense. Gen Z is like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that our government is being moved by another government? And look, they tried to do this with Russiagate. They tried, and they said, nope. There ain't no Russiagate, but there definitely is an Israel-Gate. And that's going to come back. I want you guys to remember. But I want you guys to also see this, because it is getting intense right now. And this is why TikTok is also being targeted. I want to share this with you guys too, because this is why these young people are listening. They are listening. And it's not just ones who are on the left, it's ones who are on the right too. You saw those were some white boys. And they were like, this ain't good. We got to get out of this. So let's take a look. Here's Candace Owens. She says, on the left, what?
On the left, you are not my enemy.
It is with pride that we announced our next guest. Thank you, Jack, for coming on.
No problem, Tucker. Thanks for having me on. I think it's important that we have a moment like this where we try to bring the country together.
Amen. I so strongly agree.
Wake up. Because I am telling you, this is not a battle between left and right.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. Thank you.
We have to now meet in the middle.
Do you think that America should just cut ties with Israel altogether?
What's your definition of cut ties?
Like stop funding them, stop being their military arm?
Yes,
Okay,
I'm on
great.
record saying.
Okay.
What you're doing here is so important, Congresswoman Green. So please, thank you, because I know that you now have a target on your back, and I'm sure you're being called all sorts of ridiculous names because you want to, prioritize the American people.
AIPAC needs to register under FARA. I've openly demanded that, and if we had a Department of Justice that was doing its job, they would be investigating AIPAC. But I think the American people see through it, and the tide is rapidly changing. And I tell you, one of the most delightful experiences I've had since I've been in Washington is that I'm finding common ground with people on the left and the right that really want to focus in on America. And I think that's the best thing that can happen. And that's why I'm delighted to have conversations with the two of you. And I look forward to finding more common ground, because I think that could be the best thing that could happen for all of us.
Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia, we appreciate you coming on the Outtrips.
Thank you.
I just want to say this about Congressman Massey, and I hope I don't hurt him more in his district by saying nice things. But wherever you are on his ideology, he's a profile in courage. I mean, he's got billions of dollars being spent against him. He's got billions of dollars because people don't want the Epstein release. He's got billions of dollars because AIPAC has been attacking him.
If you are on the left, you are not my enemy.
It is with pride that we announced our next guest. Thank you, Jack, for coming on.
This is why they're scared. They're scared. They are frightened because the truth is getting out. And look, like somebody said, when those boys were talking about AIPAC, there's no getting the toothpaste back in the tube. None. You can't do it. It is not going to happen. And so, look, I'm telling you right now, it's getting intense out here. But at the same time, while it's getting intense, as we see, Zionists are also gearing up because they really want to stop all this that's happening. So let me share this really quick with you guys too. Because we were talking about TikTok. And now that TikTok is now owned by a Zionist, here's what they're saying out loud.
The company will have control over how the algorithm pushes content to users. The most important thing is that it does protect Americans' data security. It ensures TikTok is still accessible. And on this question of the algorithm, which we've heard this a lot, what this deal ensures is that the American entity and the American investors will actually control the algorithm. We don't want this used as a propaganda.
The American investors control the algorithm. He didn't say American people. He said investors. When it comes to class, who are the investors? It's the people at the top. Their bosses. They're the ones who have control over the algorithms. You guys ever wonder why many of us in independent media and left independent media, our channels are significantly smaller than many on the right? And I'm talking about the ones who are anti-duopoly left, post-duopoly left, the ones who reject both parties. You want to know why? You thought it. I know you did. All right, let's continue. Because I know you got the picture. You read my mind.
Tool by any foreign government. We want to make sure that our people and our investors actually make these decisions based on what's good for their business, as opposed to what's good for another government's propaganda arm. So,
what about U.S.'s propaganda arm? I'm sorry, but they don't want to talk about that.
That's what we've done with this deal. I think it's very good for the American people. And as the president said, young people love this. We actually want everybody to access this, whether they're MAGA or not. We just want it to be fair. We want it to be fair to everybody. And we think that's what's going to happen with this new arrangement.
So, Mr. President and Mr. Vice President, the U.S. company could change the algorithm to push different content? Is that...
The U.S. company will have control over how the algorithm pushes content to users. And that was a very important part of it. We thought it was necessary for the national security element of the law. We also just think it's important to protect American users. Again, we want users to use this platform the way they want to. We want the business to make decisions about content based on the interests of the business and based on the interests of the users. And that's what we think will happen with this new arrangement.
And they're paying a lot of money. And I think hopefully it's going to be a great deal. They're very sophisticated.
Trump had to open his big fat mouth, didn't he?
Yeah, people. You'll see a list. Have you seen a list yet of the people? Well, you've been reading about it.
So this is what's happening now. And this is why they're becoming scared. And as of recently, Bibi Netanyahu came once again to the United States. A lot of people are saying, well, that's the real president of the United States. I liken it like this. Bibi Netanyahu is like Darth Vader. Donald Trump is like Grand Moff Tarkin. They both serve to the pleasure of the emperor. Who's the emperor? It's not Donald Trump. It's not Bibi Netanyahu. They are the managers of it all, but they're not the owner. The person who's above them, you don't know their name. And it's a small group of people. And they are the ones who own the big banks, the central banks. They're the ones who own, they're the ones who will own billionaires. That's who they are. And so when we say that Israel owns the U.S. or the U.S. owns Israel, it's like, that's like saying, well, Israel is the manager of the United States or the United States is the manager of Israel. You know, that's more appropriate because they both are under one owner. They both have one boss. The ultimate top of that obelisk is not Israel or the United States. It's somebody who does not want, who they don't want you to know who they are. That's who it is. And it's a collection of them because they all believe in it. So this is why I talk about how scary this is for Zionists, especially because they are becoming more upset that the United States is doing this. And now you have people meeting with Bibi Netanyahu who are influencers now. And you're actually going to see one of the influencers that's debating Max Blumenthal. And here she is here asking Bibi Netanyahu a question.
So something I would like to raise, which was actually my first published paper, was how you and the Likud party are cut from the same ideological cloth as Trump and the GOP in America. And so specifically with Charlie Kirk's assassination, who was a big mentor of mine, who's my first mentor in the space, evangelicals, from all my research, evangelicals are the reason that Israel has been supported in public sphere outside of just Jews. So with Charlie's assassination and with the kind of trajectory that we see with like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, I guess I'm curious about what's another game plan if we lose evangelical support for the state of Israel. What's our backup plan to be strong, like outside of the diaspora?
So now they're asking the question of what if we lose evangelical support? Baby, it's already starting to happen because a lot of evangelicals are like looking at what Israel has been doing, especially to fellow Christians in Palestine. And that is a bad taste in evangelicals' mouth. Because Israel bombed one of the oldest churches in the world. And that was in Palestine. So they're already losing a lot of young people on the right, especially the people who are their main core, which are young white Americans. I'm talking about 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. They're now starting to look at Israel differently. And you have people like, look at some of the young people who are now who they look up to. Like, for instance, Sneeko, who said he's MAGA, but he's against Israel now. You have Candace Owens that's speaking out against Israel. You have Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is now saying the same thing about what Israel is doing to Palestine. So now you have a lot of people recognizing that this is not just a genocide, but it's now become a 21st century Holocaust. And that's how bad this has gotten. And Israel they're spooked. They're frustrated. And so this is why it's so important that we don't stop speaking about this, because they already knew that the young people on the left were not going to play ball. But now the young people on the right basically are saying the same thing. Here's Candace Owens. Candace Owens says, I love that Bibi Netanyahu was asked how to combat Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, and his answer was effectively, we have to buy TikTok. Like, it has never once occurred to these people to simply stop murdering people and maybe start telling the truth. Not even an option. And of course, it's not going to be an option. And yes, Candace Owens in this instance is correct, right? I have a lot that I disagree with Candace Owens on, but she's correct on this. The thing is, it's like stop killing people, and maybe, just maybe, people will start looking at you more favorably. But you don't. And we've talked about, and many people have talked about, the Greater Israel Project, and really it's just a project of trying to increase real estate within the region, ethnically cleanse and kick out all the Palestinians from the area, so that they can access that land, so they can make billions of dollars off of it, and also get the natural gas that is under the feet of the Palestinians in Gaza, as well as get the millions of tons of barrels of oil that's off the coast of Gaza in the Mediterranean. And this is all what it's about. Always follow the money. Do not sit here and go, oh, well, they just want it because it's biblically theirs. No, baby. Religion has nothing to do with it. Theodor Herzl, who is the father of Zionism, was an atheist. He had nothing to do with religious right. It had nothing to do with returning to your holy land. It had everything to do with settler colonialism. And when people tell you, oh, well, we need, they don't want to work with us. The Palestinians don't want to be united with us. The Palestinians have been united with Jewish people for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. There was never some big, huge conflict between them that separated them. In fact, up until the Nakba that happened in 1948, Jewish people, Palestinians, who Palestinians were not just Muslim, they were also Christian, Jewish. Some of them were atheists and secular. Didn't matter. They all lived together in peace. But then what happened? The Nakba happened. And so when it comes to us thinking that, oh, the Palestinians are just unreasonable, no, it's not that at all. In fact, the Palestinians, a lot of them are Jewish. So it had nothing to do with religion. It had everything to do with taking over land that did not belong to those people who took it over and stealing it. It's about land theft. That's ultimately what it's about. And while I have you here, because I'm not going to hold you much longer, I really want to get into this. They're trying to do what they can to try to drum up support in Israel. And on TikTok. And I bet you a lot of people are now clowning them. I wouldn't be surprised. So let me get into, let me see. All right, so let's get into the video between Max Blumenthal and a bunch of Zionists, basically. So let's get into that. And let's react, because Max Blumenthal handled. Let's see. So let's get into this. I might as well start off with the intro because I think it's important.
Consequential stop on a U.S. tour has been marred by controversies for the Israeli premier. UN delegates walked out of the hall in protest as Netanyahu spoke at the General Assembly last week. Yesterday, he was forced to respond directly to claims that he openly boasted about controlling the United States.
He's running around. This is a fact. I'm not guessing about this because I talked to people he said it to. Is running around the Middle East, his region, and his own country, and telling people point blank, just stating it, I control the United States. I control Donald Trump.
I don't decide a thing for President Trump. He is the most independent leader, an amazing leader that I've seen in all my years, and I think many people in the world see that. So the idea that I, in any ways that I boast that I control him, that's ridiculous. It's a lie. And not only did I not say it, I don't think it.
He may not control Donald Trump, but he would apparently like to control social media. Netanyahu met a group of pro-Israel influencers on the sidelines of the UN Assembly, telling them that a Trump-backed deal for American investors to buy a share of TikTok could turn the platform into an Israeli weapon.
But we have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are in social media. And the most important purchase that is going on right now is TikTok. TikTok, number one. And I hope it goes through because it can be consequential. And the other one, what's the other one? That's most important. X. X. Exactly. Very good. And, so we have to talk to Elon. He's not an enemy.
Hang on. So let's stop there for a second. Taking over TikTok doesn't necessarily mean that you will shift the move. And why do I say that? Because ultimately, young people aren't stupid. They know exactly what's happening. And so they are shifting accordingly. I want to share with you guys something. There's a new app now called Upscroll, which is basically kind of like TikTok and Instagram put together. but it was developed by Palestinians in tech. And basically they said they're sick and tired of billionaires being able to call the shots when it comes to algorithms and throttling voices who call for liberation of people, around the world. And so they decided to make an app. It's already available in the App Store. It's all, and by the way, this is by no means a promotion for it at all. I'm just saying that I'm on there because I foresee a pretty big exodus on TikTok because they're going to mess up the algorithm. Because it was doing fine under ByteDance, and now they're messing things up. And now instead of TikTok being shut down, people are going to walk away. And so, like, if you guys want to upload and get upscrolled, I'm on there. This, my page, on there. Just go, the usual username that I have, Jaybefaunt. And look, I'm telling you right now, the toothpaste is out of the tube now. There's no putting it back. So you can take over TikTok all you want. You can pressure Elon all you want, but we know the truth now. It's out there. And so no matter what you do, you're not going to win. You're not going to take back the narrative war. And there will be other, like, if you continue this, TikTok just may go the way of MySpace. Where they at now? Where they at though? Where they at though? You know what I mean? That's basically how it is. But anyways, I'm sick and tired of listening to Bibi Netanyahu for all this crap. But anyway, let's continue.
Reaction to those comments on X has been, to put it mildly, deeply divided. And the same can be said about the bombshell news that James Comey has been indicted for perjury. Depending on where you stand, the prosecution of a former FBI director is either justice being done, evidence of creeping autocracy, or a sad consequence of illegal warfare, which began as an attack on Donald Trump. Well, joining me to debate all this is former Deputy Press Secretary and host of Katie Miller podcast, Katie Miller, pro-Israel influencer Deborah Lee, Grayzone Editor-in-Chief Max Blumenthal, host of Indisputable at the Young Turks, Dr. Rashad Richie, plus the legal scholar and author of The Preventative State, Alan Dershowitz. Well, welcome to all of you. Alan, let me start with you. We're going to come to James Comey a little later, but the significance of what is going on right now in the White House with President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. Donald Trump said at the weekend that there was basically, this war was ending, there was a deal, everyone was signing up to it. Others are more skeptical. What is your sense about where we are?
Well, I had time to speak to Benjamin Netanyahu both at the United Nations and at a dinner. Afterward, we had private time together. I can assure you of one thing, that Prime Minister Netanyahu has never said that he controls the United States or anything like it. He has said that there's a great alliance and he has respect for Donald Trump. Of course, he says that the social media are very important. I think Benjamin Netanyahu was desperate to get a good deal, a deal that will allow both the hostages to come back and his coalition to survive. But by the way, even if his coalition doesn't survive, there are now enough people outside of his coalition who support this deal that would come into a coalition, even if the right wing left. So I'm now more optimistic about the possibility that Israel, at least, can accept the 21-point deal than I have been in the past. Now, whether Hamas accepts it or not remains to be seen. But I think we're probably closer to a potential deal today, this hour, than we have been for a long time.
Okay.
So let me include something here, because this is one of the things that Alan Dershowitz is not including, is that whenever there was a deal that was going to be made, Israel ended up rejecting the deal, or they made a deal so horrendous that Hamas really, and by Hamas, I'm talking about there's wings. There's actually the political wing of Hamas, and then there's the paramilitary side of Hamas. But the political wing of Hamas, they were like, yeah, this is completely all in favor of Israel, and it doesn't benefit us at all. And so, of course, if there is a rejection by them, then they say no. But for the most part, a lot of the rejections have actually happened because of Israel. Let's not also forget that what happened in Doha last week in Qatar, where Hamas leadership was there, and then Israel decided to bomb where they were in Doha right before they were supposed to be doing a negotiation. And so if Israel was really for trying to negotiate something, they wouldn't have sent missiles to kill the Hamas leadership in Doha. They would have actually met with them and actually came up to a finalized deal. But because they ended up deciding to try to murder the leadership within Hamas, then guess what? Deal's off. And so the deal being off is not because of Hamas. The deal is off because of Israel. And they have done this over and over and over. Anytime there was a ceasefire, who broke the ceasefire? It was Israel that broke the ceasefire. And so when people talk about, oh, well, Hamas, they don't actually want a deal. No, baby. You got it twisted. They want a deal because they want their people to be able to eat. They want their people to be able to be taken care of. But they also want to have freedom. Problem is that Israel does not want that. And so really it's just Israel trying to make it look like they're the victims in the situation when really they're the perpetrators. So Alan Dershowitz is not going to tell you that because Alan Dershowitz is really just a lapdog for Zionism, right? And he's not going to tell you that. But at the same time, of course, and I'm forgetting the gentleman from TYT in the middle. I forget his name. I think it's Rashad, something like that. My apologies for forgetting his name. But he takes Alan Dershowitz a little bit to task. But the person who does it the most is Max Blumenthal. And by the way, as you guys watch Max Blumenthal, if you guys don't know who he is, Max Blumenthal is a journalist and he's also Jewish. So keep that in mind when Max Blumenthal handles Alan Dershowitz. Let's continue on.
So Rashad, Rishi, what is your response to that?
In all due respect, first of all, I would be hesitant to say what Benjamin Netanyahu has said or has not said in reference to owning the United States of America, since none of us have heard those conversations directly and we can't be with him 24 hours. Number two, the dynamic that exists with Netanyahu is this: he doesn't have trust equity. And this is when trust equity matters. If you have broken your word prior, or at least the other side of this has had contention with your word being valuable, whatever word you put on the table this time will have the same level of respect that you showed your word the first time. So now you have a principle that looks decent on paper, but the other side of that principle, Hamas, they haven't even seen it, according to the last report. So this is good on paper, good on promise, probably okay on principle, but once again, you don't have the credibility to land it.
So he's correct about one thing. Bibi Netanyahu, he actually speaks out of both sides of his mouth. He'll talk about we need to reach a hostage deal. I'm sorry, but look, he's a war criminal. He's a monster. So I have no qualms about making fun of him, even in a sophomoric way. I'm sorry, but he goes, Hamas, they don't want a deal. They just want to kill everyone who is Jewish within the only democracy in the Middle East, right? When in reality, no, that's not true. And with somebody like Benjamin Netanyahu, he'll say that he wants a hostage deal to be agreed on, but then when they get even within a few inches or a few feet away from an actual agreement on a deal, what happens? Israel tears it apart. So ultimately, it's really, the problem is not just Benjamin Netanyahu, not just the Likud government. It is really the whole of Israel itself. because the Zionist project wants everything and leaves nothing. Nothing for the people who have been inhabiting that land for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Let's continue on.
Katie Miller, I mean,
but remember too that Hamas on October 6th was part of a peace deal. They had promised peace. There was a ceasefire, and they broke it by killing 1,200 people and kidnapping 250. So certainly there's a credibility gap on the other side as well. And Netanyahu's credibility essentially is enforced by the Trump administration. So I think if Netanyahu and Trump agree to a deal, that deal will be carried out. Will Hamas carry it out? Look at their history. They haven't carried out previous deals.
Alan.
Hang on. So Alan Dershowitz is full of shit because they have been trying to come to a deal, but every single time they try to come to a deal, Israel would do something to mess it up by killing people, essentially. So therefore, they have been trying to agree to a deal, but every single time they tried to, Israel messed it up. And in regards to October 7th, talk to Palestinians, because they will tell you that it was bloody on their side for weeks and weeks before October 7th. And guess what? They were sick and tired of being sick and tired. So this is when Operation Al-Aqsa Flood happened on October 7th, which is the anniversary, 2-year anniversary is next week. So that's why it happened, because they were sick and tired of being sick and tired. And you have this nuclear-powered military force that is forcing you into apartheid and an open-air concentration camp where you are put on a caloric diet, where your electricity, your fuel, your water, everything in your life is overseen by the Israeli occupation forces. So therefore, when you did that, you put them in a place where they had no choice but to seek liberation by any means necessary. And this is exactly what happened. So you can talk about hostage deals all you want, but if you really want to talk about the failure of hostage deals not being fulfilled, you need to talk to Bibi Netanyahu, you need to talk to the Likud government, and you also need to talk to all of Israel, including all of its citizens, who a majority of which want all Palestinians wiped off the map. That's who you need to talk to.
Just on that, hang on one sec. Hang on one sec. I want to ask another question. On that one, hang on, please. Hang on. Alan, just on you raised.
I'm going to respond to you, Alan.
Well, you will get a chance in a moment, but I'm actually.
And Rashad, you know what? Good on Rashad trying to respond. Now, I'll be honest with you. Piers should have let him respond. Piers should have let him. But, you know, Piers, even though he mildly critiqued Israel, and he whines about it now because he's like, well, Israelis are coming after me now for critiquing Israel. He's still doing his job. And he's still doing his job as basically capitulating to the powers that be. And the powers that be want Israel to exist. They want the Zionist project to exist. They want the settler colonialism to exist because it's more money for them. Anyway.
Moderating the panel, so I will go first. Alan, I was curious what you thought, given all your legal background, about Israel's attack on the Hamas peace delegation, trying to work out what they thought of whatever the last offer was. In Doha, a country with 10,000 American troops right there, it seemed to me an utterly stupid and reckless act. It didn't work. It didn't kill any of the Hamas commanders. But why would Israel do that at such a critical stage of negotiations? Why would you talk about trust? But why would anyone on the Hamas side now have any trust with anybody on the other side if they think every time they're going to meet to consider a proposal, they're going to get killed?
And that's the question that completely tore apart Alan Dershowitz's point. Now, I do have to give it to Piers Morgan on this one. That question is like, okay, you want to talk about trust? They were about to reach a deal last week, about 10 days ago. So what do you say about that now, Alan? You know, listen to what Alan says. Oh, Lord.
Remember, there's a precedent for this. The United States, without permission of Pakistan, went after Osama bin Laden and killed him on Pakistani territory.
But he wasn't involved in any peace process.
When a country, no. But when
so
a country
to me, honestly, Alan, with respect, Alan,
there are two
with
questions.
Respect, I do find the bin Laden analogy utterly fatuous. Everyone's used it on the Israeli side. And I'm like, hang on.
Legally, it's not. Legal.
No, but he wasn't. Yeah. But the point being, Osama bin Laden at the time he was taken out, and by the way, thank God he was, and absolutely amazing that the Navy SEALs went in and took him out. Great. But let's not pretend that he was involved in any active negotiations with the United States over any peace deal. Obviously, he wasn't. So the parallel to me is completely different. I just cannot get my head round the thought process of Prime Minister Netanyahu at the crucial moment of negotiations thinks it's a good idea to attack Qatar and to try and take out all the Hamas negotiating team. No one can explain to me why that was a good idea.
Message. Oh gosh, let's continue.
It was not a good idea. The question is, was it legal? And the answer was, yes, it was legal. When you're harboring criminals and murderers, it is legal to cross over into borders.
Yeah, I didn't ask if it was legal.
Was it wise? No. Was it wise? No. Had it succeeded, by the way, I think President Trump would have applauded it, and many people in the world would have applauded it. When Israel does something like that, it darn well better succeed, as it did with Iran. It failed in Qatar, and that certainly suggests that it was not a good idea. So, no, I don't.
So, hang on. He said it's legal to go after killers and murderers. Here's the thing. Here's the thing I need to clarify. So, according to international law, when you are a group that's being occupied, like Palestinians, and you have an occupying force that is trying to subjugate you and oppress you, you have the legal right by any means necessary to resist occupation. Thereby meaning that what the Palestinian resistance did was actually legal under international law. So if it was legal under international law, you cannot call them killers and criminals if they are in Doha. So therefore, be honest with you, if we really want to go by international law, the real criminals are the IOF, Benjamin Netanyahu, Smotrich, Ben Gvir, all the people within the Likud party, all the people within the Israeli government, including the Israeli citizens that are all there, and they are forced under conscription to be IOF, basically meaning any citizen of Israel is a military member. Thereby, they're the criminals. And you're trying to paint the resistance as criminals? I'm not even a lawyer, and I can understand that. Alan Dershowitz, Alan Dershowitz is way older than me. Way older than me. Also, kind of weird how you list a lot like Rupert Murdoch. Kind of interesting. But that's beside the point.
Support as a good idea, but I support it legally.
Okay, but by the
So
way,
that's the difference.
as we're talking, I can reveal that Prime Minister Netanyahu has apologized to the Qatari Prime Minister for the Israeli strike
That's
on
a good
Doha.
idea.
They spoke on the phone during Netanyahu's meeting with Trump, according to new reports. He apologized for violating Qatari sovereignty and expressed regret for killing a Qatari security guard. Let me bring in Max Blumenthal here. You see, Max, I just think that if you're going to ever get to peace in this awful war, which has killed so many innocent people in the process of the battle between the IDF and Hamas, if you're going to get to a peaceful resolution, at some stage, there has to be a modicum of good faith on both sides to even consider a peace proposal. I just can't understand. I mean, it's all right, Netanyahu now apologizing, but what was he thinking to do this? I just can't understand it.
Well, former State Department Press Secretary Matthew Miller said, after defending Netanyahu day after day, that Netanyahu shattered every ceasefire agreement, broke every possible deal in order to survive and hold his narrow coalition together, a coalition that features people like Gila Gamliel, the innovation minister, who said the real agenda in Gaza is to make Gaza uninhabitable until the population leaves, and we'll do the same in the West Bank. Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister, has said that this is a business deal, that Gaza is a business deal and a real estate bonanza, and we need to divide it. The first stage was demolition and building in Gaza, and basically taking it over for Jewish settlers is cheaper. So that's the real agenda. We're witnessing a kind of final solution that Netanyahu affirmed in May 2025 when he said, we will destroy the homes of the people in Gaza to make them leave. Today, Israel destroyed the largest residential tower in Gaza City, a residential tower, because I've reported in Gaza, that I've actually seen. And the defense minister, Israel Katz, celebrated this. They're celebrating the destruction of entire neighborhoods, which is why, while Israel is waging a seventh front war, which now extends into U.S. allies to kill the negotiating team because it was getting in the way of this final solution, they're actually extending into an eighth front, which is the United States, where Netanyahu has said that his coterie of billionaires, including Larry Ellison, must buy TikTok and buy all these media assets to prevent the PR propaganda collapse that Israel's facing. And we have a panelist here who was in that meeting who appropriately compared Netanyahu and his Likud party to Donald Trump's GOP, essentially because the Likud party controls Donald Trump through vehicles like Israeli asset Miriam Adelson.
Okay.
Oh, oh my Lord. Oh my God. So yeah, basically Max just put a huge information dump there. And one of the things in that information that he basically talked about is how really it's just about a bunch of real estate development, as well as, and you guys can look this up, about how there are billions of tons of, you have the natural gas that's underneath Gaza, and then also you have the millions of barrels of oil that is off the coast of Gaza in the Mediterranean. And also on top of that, they also want to build a canal that rivals the Suez Canal so that they can be able to have their ships go through there as well. So ultimately, this is about money. This has nothing to do about spirituality. It has nothing to do about religion. It has nothing to do about the promised land, because the Israel of the Bible is not the same as the Israel of today. And so with that being said, when anybody tries to make that argument, look, give them the facts. Look up who Theodore Herzl was. Theodore Herzl was an atheist. He was the father of Zionism, and it was really, and Zionism, really, to be honest with you, to occupy a completely different part of the world where a lot of these Jewish people who were European Jewish people, Zionism itself is anti-Semitic, because ultimately the people in Europe wanted the Jewish people out of there, and so they wanted to ship them off to anywhere else in the world they can go. And that's ultimately where it was about. And by the way, When it comes to World War II, the Palestinians had nothing to do with what happened to the Jewish people in World War II. That's a fact. And so when people talk about, oh my God, well, we were trying to come here from World War II. Look, World War II ended, and then Germany could have carved out a part of Germany for the Jewish people so that they can have their own place. But that's not what they did. Because ultimately, they still didn't want them there. Neither did the British. Right? And so we gotta set that right there. But then he called out, remember that young lady that we saw, that I showed you guys, that was sitting right directly in front of Netanyahu and was basically asking about what happens, what's our plan if we lose evangelical support? She is right there in the upper right-hand corner. That's her. And the lady that's in the upper middle is the wife of Stephen Miller in the Trump administration. So it's getting deep, y'all. It's getting deep. And she's about to chime in now. And Lord, oh Lord, let's hear what she has to say.
Katie, I'm going to come to you because I was going to come to you before I went back to Alan. Said I will come to you. But just on that point about that meeting, Deborah Lee, you were in the Netanyahu influencer meeting. Do you recognize the characterization that Max just put up for that?
I think everything that Max is saying is just honestly hysterical because it is so two-sided. Max, you are directly funded by Iran, Russia, and Qatar, the organization that you work for.
No, I wasn't. That's a huge lie.
Oh my gosh. She said you're paid by Iran. You're paid by Iran. It's like, okay, ma'am, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence for that? Anyway, let's continue.
I think everything that Max is saying is just honestly hysterical because it is so two-sided.
I thought it was would be one-sided, first of all. It's two-sided? Because there's two sides to every story. Interesting choice of words. Anyway.
Max, you are directly funded by Iran, Russia, and Qatar, the organization that you work for.
No, I wasn't. That's a huge lie. That's a lie.
From the Iranian Play TV that is proven from your own documents. It is proven that is you have received money. I've never received $1 from Israel or the Israeli government, whereas your company, Grayzone, is directly, this is not liable. It has been proven in documents from your own company. But at the intro,
violating U.S. sanctions.
Yes, you claim that your organization, Grayzone, simply runs off readers donating money, but that is not true, and that is absolutely not true because it's been proven. And Piers, I just wanted to address what you said on the intro of this, that Bibi was saying that he needs to buy TikTok and that make it an Israeli weapon. I was in that meeting. I posted the video. The video that you played was my video. If you watch the video for yourself, he never said that. I was asking Bibi about what do we do in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination and the rise of the woke right with people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson creating chaos online, even with things like Tyler Robinson saying that he wasn't the assassin when he's confessed to it, trying to get a mistrial for him and not get justice for Charlie Kirk. So I was asking Bibi, because I wrote a paper when I was in college, as Max mentioned, about the similarities between the GOP party and the identities and the values of the Republican Party under Trump, and how the Likud party in Israel under Benjamin Netanyahu has similar ideologies and values, and they're cut from the same ideological cloth. I didn't say that the Likud party controls the GOP. I literally wrote that they just have similar ideological values, which I hold as a conservative Jew. So as far as buying TikTok, we saw in that video, every single person here and nearly every single commentator agrees. I've never received $1, so that's a cheap shot. Keep trying. My bank accounts.
You wouldn't even be here if Netanyahu hadn't bought you.
I'm still talking. That's not true. I've been on Fox hundreds of times. I was a huge TikToker in 2020. I'm not lying. You're a liar. Anyway, I wasn't done talking. Every single person here, every single political commentator, and the Trump administration will acknowledge that TikTok is a grave threat to the United States if it was controlled by China. All of us have acknowledged how China can influence the United States through TikTok, through videos, through making us dumber, through putting out propaganda, whatever it is. Same with X. Why do you think Elon Musk bought X? Because we recognize the free speech issues on there under Mark.
Damn, she said Israel. Well, they can buy you. Oh my gosh. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. There is a big issue with people being paid by Israel. And the thing is, they may not be paid directly by the Israeli government. They could be paid by their proxies like for instance, there's many think tanks as well as Israeli lobby that could be paying some of these influencers in order to be able to spread propaganda about Israel. And the thing is, not like they're telling them, oh, spread this propaganda about Israel. It's that people like her probably believe the Zionist hype. She probably drank the Kool-Aid, and so she believes it. And this is what we call manufacturing consent. This was basically the same, that it was brought out by Noam Chomsky in his book Manufacturing Consent, is that sometimes it's not that they're being told what to believe, it's that they're hired because they believe in what the lie that has been told to them. They believe the lie, so therefore they're hired to continue to disseminate that lie. This is exactly what happens in corporate media, because a lot of these people, they will speak on behalf of corporations because they believe that the corporations, that the corporate model, the capitalist model is actually the right model. And so people like this young lady here, she actually believes that Zionism is a good thing, that settler colonialism is a good thing. So therefore she's going to vouch for them. And so Max Blumenthal is basically poking holes right now in her belief system live in 4K and basically saying you're being paid by Israel to essentially help the narrative war for a nation, well, not really a nation, but anyways, that is literally committing a Holocaust against Palestinian people. And she refuses to accept it because, number one, you're basically taking the center of her belief system and you're letting it shatter all over the floor. On top of that, you're also taking what she holds dear as beliefs, which really is just a lie. And if she starts to believe or she starts to question that belief, that also puts her money at risk because she's getting money from the settler colonialists. And so therefore, she has an incentive to continue to let the lie go. And she has to keep on sniffing the fart of Israel in order to be able to believe the lie. So that's basically what it is. Let's continue.
Why is it that every single time, though, an American female Jew
let's hear from Katie
in modern times?
Deborah, let's hear. Time out. Let's hear from Katie.
I just don't understand.
Sorry, unless your name is Katie, please don't now speak. Katie.
Every time an American female Jew speaks in our country, it is that they're bought and paid for by the Israelis. Why is it that every single time a Jew has an opinion?
Wait. Why is she center on it being female? What? Look, and these are the same people that talk about, oh my God, we can't do identity politics. But why is every single female Jew like, no, we talk about how somebody like Hakeem Jeffries, right, gets paid by the Jewish lobby, not the Jewish lobby. I'm sorry, the Zionist lobby, right? We talk about Richie Torres being paid by the Zionist lobby. As far as I'm concerned, they don't have uteruses. So it's not just every single time a female Jewish person talks about Israel, then she's part of some lobby. No. It's any Zionist that upholds Israel is either being paid or they are an ignorant fool. They're ignorant. It's either one or two. Either they're paid and ignorant, or they're unpaid and ignorant, or there's a third option. They're not ignorant, but they still get paid. So that's basically what it is. So her coming after him about that, it is quite rich coming from Miss Miller.
They must be therefore bought and paid for by the Israeli government. Can they not just have an opinion that is valid and not be bought and paid for? I just do not understand.
Well, who paid
to
for
me,
Deborah's trip,
and
propaganda
it is
trip
wrong.
to Israel?
And let me continue by saying this.
I mean, we know
go to
propaganda trip to Israel. Don't all talk at once, please.
Don't all
talk at once, please. Katie.
But what I can tell you, I was not there. I did not hear Bibi Netanyahu speak at the UN. But what I can tell you is that President Trump has never been bought and paid for by anyone. Bibi Netanyahu surely does not have the position that he is in control of President Trump. If anything,
Hang on. President Trump is not bought and paid for by anyone. Okay, so hang on. Let me go over this in my head. Miriam Adelson, can you come to the front, please? Did you buy and pay for Donald Trump to be where he's at? Oh, you did. You did. Okay, so that's one. Elon Musk, did you buy and pay for Donald Trump to be where he's at? Oh, you did too. Oh, goodness, you guys actually bought and paid for Donald Trump? You mean to tell me that Donald Trump is for sale just like Kamala Harris? That's right. I said just like Kamala Harris because they're all part of the same damn club. This is why I talk about both parties are trash. Oh, you thought this was going to be a Democrat channel? Nope. No, see, here's the thing. We got to call it all out. Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. My name is Jaybefaunt Laurie. I'm your host. So that's the thing. Like, for instance, and people are going to sit here and look at Max Blumenthal, and they're going to think, oh, he's some liberal. Nope, not at all. Wrong guy. And so it's rich coming from some of these guys. But anyway,
Trump has proven that he has walked away multiple times. If you believe that Bibi Netanyahu apologized to Qatar on his own free will today, I can assure you that is not the case. There's a reason why that phone call happened during his White House visit. It is because this president takes very seriously his commitment to the American people that they will not be dragged into any more foreign wars. And that includes with Israel.
They won't be dragged into any more foreign wars. Hang on. So why in the world did the United States send missiles to Iran? Oh, you didn't know. Oh, yes. If the United States won't be dragged into any more foreign wars, then why are we giving them at minimum $3.8 billion a year on top of the billions that we've already given them so far just in 2024 alone? And the United States is also at war with a lot of these countries by proxy through Israel, because Israel is just a proxy of the United States, just like Ukraine was just a proxy of the United States. Can we talk about it? So the United States is involved in foreign wars. They still are. You may not want to accept it. You may want to go, I can't hear you. But guess what, ma'am? It's the truth, even though you don't want to accept it. And this is the problem with partisan politics, because you want to think that everything your president and party does, you think it's above board, and then you defend him to the hilt, even though he is wrong every which way, and he goes against the promises that he did on the campaign trail. And yes, this would have still happened under Kamala Harris, because she would have been doing the same damn thing. So stop drinking the Kool-Aid. It's laced. Stop. Save yourself.
Yeah,
Miriam
Casey,
Adelson has visited the White House more than any other visitor.
Max, wait a minute. Just to be clear,
please. And the Soros family buys and pays for every single liberal that is existing. Every single picture you have has Soros in it. So please sit down.
Wait. Hold on. Remember what I said? Max Blumenthal is not a liberal. So going with the Soros line, George Soros is also a Zionist. So George Soros and Miriam Adelson are on the same side. So let's get that straight, especially when it comes to settler colonialism. So attacking somebody like a Max Blumenthal or an Aaron Mate or a Katie Halper or any one of us on the left be like, oh, whoa, George Soros. No. George Soros, he can kick rocks as far as I'm concerned too. All them billionaires can kick rocks. Kick rocks, kick boulders, kick pebbles, kick asteroids. I don't care. Jump on one and fly away. I don't care. But that's the thing, right? Coming after him for that? She didn't read up on who Max Blumenthal is? Oh Lord. The ignorance is high here.
Okay, but they're Americans. They're Americans. I mean, we're witnessing a foreign meddling operation with.
Okay, hang on. We got to make sure we do this right because
has Soros in it. So please sit down.
Okay, but they're Americans.
Okay, hold up. Because Max Blumenthal is about to throw down the gauntlet, let's make this appropriate. All right. Ready and fight.
They're Americans. I mean, we're witnessing a foreign meddling operation with Deborah Leah Schwartzman at the forefront as an influencer trying to put lipstick on a Holocaust.
Well, you know, I actually
like
I'm
American citizen.
Let me speak, please.
I flew to Israel on a paid trip.
Let me speak.
I've never been paid to fly out to Israel.
Wow, this panel is what I would call insubordinate. Why can't you all take a leaf out of Alan Dershowitz's book? He's been on before, unlike most of the others. And Alan just sits there respectfully waiting for a chance to talk and then says his bit and then listens to the rest of you. Try and learn from Alan Dershowitz.
Oh, gosh. I don't want to hear. Lord.
I would say that one of the more insidious aspects of this entire war has been that anyone that dares criticize either side immediately gets positioned. And by the way, I've had it from both sides. So I speak from a position of authority that when I supported Israel's right to defend itself for many months into this war, I was immediately accused by many on the Palestinian side of being some kind of Zionist monster. And then now I've been more critical of what the Israeli government's been doing this year. I've been accused of being, as a Hamas sympathizer. None of this helps anything.
Hang on. Let me say something here, because here's the thing. You're trying to be the radical moderate in this, and radical moderate does not help. Because there are two victims. I'm sorry, there's one victim and there's one perpetrator. So let me put it this way. There's a domestic violence situation. And it's the classic, you have a man and a woman, and the aggressor is the man, right? But the woman is the one that's being violated. Now, in that domestic violence situation, even though the woman's getting beat beyond recognition from the man, he also has a few scratches of his own on him. Now, let me ask you this. Do you say, oh my God, both sides are at fault because he shouldn't have hit her and she shouldn't have scratched him in retaliation? Hang on. Is that a both sides issue? Especially if him beating her was unwarranted. Like, it was not like she was trying to attack him with a weapon or anything. It's just he decided to give her a fresh one. Is this a both sides issue? What? It's not? Okay, good. So this is also not a both sides issue. So when Piers Morgan talks about, oh my God, I got attacked from both sides. Piers, here's the thing. It's not a both sides issue. It is not complex, which Alan Dershowitz would try to explain that it is, but it's not a complex issue. This is settler colonialism, plain and simple. It is no different than when the Europeans came over to this land and massacred and committed a Holocaust against the natives. So therefore, is it complex? Hail to the Nam. So guess what? Were you wrong on saying that Israel has a right to defend itself? Yes, you were. Because they were the occupiers in this situation. So that's the difference. And you can say, oh my God, there's two sides to every issue. Not this time. Sometimes things are actually just black and white. And I'm a person that appreciates nuance, but this is, when you look at the history, it's not a gray issue. It's not a blurred lines issue. It's illegal supremacist settlers against an indigenous people. That's what it is. And the indigenous people dare to fight back. Let's continue.
I agree with you.
I
agree with you. I think you're right. I think you're right.
Right, Alan. And you and I have discussed this. I just think it's so unhelpful to actually getting anywhere with this, because everyone in a free democratic society, we should all be free to criticize whatever we want. And all I suggest people try and do is act less tribally and be a little bit more intellectually honest, which I think I've tried to be. Alan, on that issue, the suppression of people's opinions by branding them the worst thing you can brand them and make out that they're paid up employees. I mean, maybe some people are, right? But just to do it as a sort of brushstroke way of silencing criticism, I think that's so wrong in a democracy.
I agree with you. And if you are an agent of a country and you're paid for it, you have to register as a lobbyist. And if you don't, you're guilty of a crime. I think under the First Amendment, we have to give good faith assumption that people are speaking from their conscience, not because they're paid to speak or because they are made to speak. And I think that the issue between Israel and the Palestinians is a complex issue. I've always thought.
Remember what I just said? Remember what I just said? It is not a complex issue. But people like Alan Dershowitz exist to tell you it's a complex issue so that you'll err on the side of the Zionists because you don't want to get attacked. Anyway. Let's continue.
But it was a complex issue. I'm hoping maybe someday we can move to a real two-state solution where both sides can live in peace, because there are no people more intelligent, thoughtful, and industrious than the Palestinian people. And if they were free to work together with Israelis on high tech, they could turn their swords into plowshares and their atomic bombs into nuclear medicine. The potential for the Palestinians and the Israelis working together is absolutely limitless. The problem has been the leadership. And I think it's so important that there be direct negotiations between the people themselves. I think the vast majority of whom would like to see a peaceful solution, but it can't.
Hang on. The fact is that before the occupation, they actually were working together peacefully. That's the issue. They were. Before the Nakba, they were actually peaceful. The problem is that you had a bunch of supremacists that came down that wanted to take the rest of the land for themselves that didn't belong to them. And then they kicked out, what was it, 285,000 Palestinians out of their homes? There are many Palestinians who still have the keys to their houses that got taken away from them. And so, no, it is not a complex issue. It is a very simple issue, right? I am a fan of reparations. I am a fan of repair. That being said, everything that was stolen in 1948 needs to be given back in full. I said what I said. Go cry to your big bone mama about it. I don't care. Because here's the thing. Real repair means putting things back into the position that it was before the harm was ever made. And right now, was there two states before the harm was made? No. There was one state. Guess what? What's the solution? What's the repair? Alan Dershowitz. What a crock of shit.
Occur with Hamas in control. And that's why the end result has to be a two-state solution without Hamas and with people on both sides who agree to recognize the other. Now, when the countries of Europe unilaterally recognize the Palestinian state without even asking the Palestinians to recognize Israel as the nation state of the Jewish people or release the hostages, that created an asymmetry which made it more difficult for Israel now to move to the negotiating table. So I think that was a setback for peace. But I think, Piers, what you're doing is promoting peace, because I think you've been very honest when you've criticized Israel, very honest when you've criticized the other side, and you've brought people on who represent both sides of the issue as long as they're given an opportunity to talk. So congratulations, Piers.
Okay. Alan Dershowitz is such a kiss ass. Okay, hang on. Here's the problem. When it talks about debate both sides of an issue, I don't have room to debate whether somebody should agree with my existence or not. I'm coming at this from the lived experience as a Black gay man in this space. If we have to debate my existence, there is no debate. And this is the problem with people who like Alan Dershowitz and Piers Morgan, right? Because to them, it's just like, we can just debate. Look, no. Absolutely not. I'm not going to debate my existence. I'm not going to debate the existence of marginalized people, whether they should or shouldn't exist, whether they should or shouldn't be cleansed from the land. That's not up for debate. What kind of totalitarian, dystopian BS is this? And you're trying to dress it up as civil debate. That's not civil. That is not civil at all. And at this very moment, decorum goes out the damn window. What decorum? Stop. Ghetto time. Because here's the thing. I don't feel like, hold up. I know this white man ain't telling me and everybody out here with his millions of dollars that, we should just have civil debate over human rights. Max Blumenthal and Rashad, respectfully, their patience is way higher than mine. Way higher than mine. Because I would be like, Alan, you got me fucked all the way up right now. Because we're literally talking about the rights of people to exist on their own land. That is not up for debate. And the fact that you even think it should be up for debate means that you may need some re-education in solitude on an island somewhere in the Pacific, away from other people. Like, My, how far we have fallen.
You've done a great job.
Well, all I've done is try to be a journalist who, doesn't have a personal horse in the race and wants to try and be constructive, bring people together who have very different views and try and reach some points of consensus. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. It's Medicare annual.
Okay, let's get past this ad because, okay.
Rasha Rishi, I wanted to ask you a question, which is about Tony Blair, who has now been promoted as somebody who may lead in the short term the sort of power base in Gaza as it comes out of this war. Many people pointing out, and I was editor of a Daily Mirror newspaper in England that vehemently opposed the war in Iraq, for example. So I would be one of these people who think it's a little incongruous for somebody who bombed the hell out of Iraq to suddenly be the peace broker running Gaza. But is there method to that madness, do you think?
What's unfortunate, great question. What's unfortunate is that the current leadership of America and allied countries is so much in the toilet that they have to look at a previous leader for consideration. And that previous leader has to have the gravitas as a former head of state in order to be considered. There's another consideration to have nonprofit organizations be in charge of this. Some of those nonprofits are inside of the United States of America, which creates another irony in the leadership dynamic for how the execution may happen. But what you're seeing is a result of completely corrupt, failed, and adverse leadership not being trusted. And this is why recommendations like Tony Blair even exist.
Yeah. Kate, obviously you're married to Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff. I met him for the first time in Qatar, at the Emir of Qatar's state dinner for Donald Trump earlier this year. And we had a very nice chat, but I just was curious what you think about what happened in Doha with the Israeli strike, given the context of apparently Benjamin Netanyahu during the meeting with Trump actually telephoning the Qatari prime minister to apologize.
I actually think that wouldn't have happened without President Trump. President Trump, I'm sure, sat him down today in the Oval Office and said, in order for the United States to come behind you and help Israel in its intention to seek peace, you must do the right thing and apologize to Qatar. Because I think without the president's leadership, right, we wouldn't even be in a place to be having these conversations to move forward to even seek peace. It is President Trump who is continually bringing Benjamin Netanyahu to the table and bringing Hamas to the table. And if not, the Palestinian people, quite frankly, I don't even want to foresee a situation in which the United States was not involved, because I do not think that would be a pretty situation.
Right.
Hang on. I would like to see a situation where the United States is not involved, because the United States always has some ulterior motive via the corporate powers that actually run our government. And they run people well, that they do run Benjamin Netanyahu, but they also run Donald Trump, and they would have ran Kamala Harris. And the thing is, like, would this have happened under a different administration? Yes, it would have happened under the Harris administration. And the problem is, she's trying to paint it as, well, it would be even worse under Kamala Harris. This is basically the same thing that liberals said, oh, it's going to be worse under Donald Trump. Guess what? It's worse on both sides. The thing is that Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are really cut from the same cloth when it comes to their devotion to the settler colonial state, right? Kamala Harris is just Donald Trump with a lace front, and then Donald Trump is just Kamala Harris with a comb over. That's it. That's all there is. And they are both one and the same. And when people talk about, oh my God, one would be worse than the other, then you guys aren't looking at this from a 30,000-foot view. You can't see the forest through the trees, because ultimately they both are servants of the empire. And so people like Mrs. Miller here, she thinks that somehow that it would be worse under a Kamala Harris, when in reality it would be just as bad. I'm sorry, it would be just as bad under Donald Trump. And they keep talking about, oh, we're trying to get a negotiation. Well, if Israel didn't keep trying to stop the negotiations, then maybe a negotiation would have been made. But people like Bibi Netanyahu, they don't give a damn about the negotiations, because they don't want to negotiate, because that means that they would have to stop the Greater Israel Project. And they don't want to stop it, because that means that they want to clear the entire way out. It never is about trying to seek peace. They don't want peace. They want destruction. They are no different than the aliens in Independence Day, where they actually spoke to the president when they were in Area 51. And the president was like, maybe we can come to an agreement. He's like, we want peace. And then the alien goes, peace, no peace. And he's like, well, what do you want? And the alien told him that he wanted them to, you know what I mean? I got to be careful what I say here on YouTube. But he wanted them to pass away. He wanted them to be deleted. He wanted to send them to the upper room. He wanted to send them to the far plane. If you know, you know. But that's the thing, right? So when it comes to the settler colonial state, this is what they want to do to the Palestinians. That's basically it. So Donald Trump can talk about negotiations all he wants, but that's not what's going to happen. And it's not going to happen whether it's Bibi Netanyahu, whether it's a liberal Zionist like what J Street trying to push for. It's not going to happen, because settler colonialism, by any other color, is still settler colonialism. Whether it's blue settler colonialism or red settler colonialism, it's the same thing. Blue Zionism, red Zionism, it's all still the same, right? Can you really taste the difference between a red and green bell pepper? Or I'm sorry, a red and yellow bell pepper? Can you really taste the difference? Is it that big of a gulf in difference? Not really, because in the end, they're still bell peppers. You know what I mean?
Thanks, Blumenthal. Tony Blair, I mean, a very divisive figure, obviously, but a three-time Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, enormous experience in the region. Obviously, Iraq, a massive black mark over his reputation there. But is it a mad idea that somebody like Blair, who has a lot of contacts on all sides of this, runs a non-profit organization? Is it a mad idea that in the short term, he try and oversee things so that there can be a peaceful transition to a life beyond Hamas for the Palestinians that leads to ultimately, hopefully, a two-state solution?
Okay, before he answers this, let me point something out here about Tony Blair. Tony Blair was actually the Prime Minister of the UK back during the same time when George W. Bush was president of the United States. So the war on terror was really a dual thing, right? So you have George W. Bush and Tony Blair that were actually conducting the counterterrorism efforts that were happening here, that were happening in West Asia. And so to have Tony Blair trying to lead negotiations would be the equivalent of having George W. Bush lead negotiations. And we already know what George W. Bush did to Iraq and Afghanistan. So is it a good idea to have Tony Blair lead negotiations? No. We all should know that. The problem is that they don't want to get somebody who's really going to be fair. They just want somebody that seems like they're going to be fair to them. And then it gets to what the corporations want, because the corporations ultimately also run the UK too.
Well, just real quickly on the last point, I mean, the Trump administration was told in advance of the Israeli attack on Qatar. They didn't do anything to stop it, just as they.
Well, apparently they were told once the attack was in play, and that did not give them any time to try and prevent anything.
It shows the level of disrespect and power dynamics that Israel and Netanyahu can treat Trump like their own personal cuck. And then transcripts from the Israeli military command show
Wait, and where is Benjamin Netanyahu today? Is
the
he in the
Israeli
Oval
military let me just say that Netanyahu is going to be able to drag the US back into another war with Iran, just as he did before, knowing that he couldn't go in and finish a war that he started without the Trump administration going along and basically letting him escape. And most Americans don't want this. Charlie Kirk personally.
Okay, so what Max said is actually true. Okay, here's the issue. Back in 2000, was it 2000 or 2001? Benjamin Netanyahu has been beating the drum saying, the state of Iran is only 3 weeks away from having a nuclear bomb. And then a few years, okay, he said that in the 90s. Then he said that in early 2000, Iran is only about a few days away from having a nuclear bomb. A couple of years later, Iran is just a month or two away from having a nuclear bomb. We're all in danger. Cut to a few years later, Iran is just days away from having a nuclear bomb. Then a few years later, oh, it's on the doorstep. It's on the doorstep. the nuclear bomb is coming. It's like a DoorDash driver. It's right near his location. Then a few years later, even down to this day, oh my God, they have a nuclear bomb. They enrich uranium by 97%, which they haven't enriched uranium up to that point anyway. They're just trying to get some nuclear power to be able to power their cities. But you're like, oh my goodness, hey, they're gonna have a nuclear bomb. Don't you believe me? Don't you believe me? That walking, talking, war crime committing scrotum sack has been saying the same damn thing for about 30 years and it ain't even happened. He has as much usefulness as the diseased turd. And you mean to tell me that you're going to believe him whenever he says something? He's been lying for the last 30 years. It's like, baby, I know, I got a little nookie from this, sweet thing, but it didn't mean nothing. I promise it will never happen again. And it happens again and again and again and again. Maybe those last 14 times, she's out of my system. She's out of my system. What do you want me to do? I'm a man. I have needs. But anyways, I'm not going to do it again. Are you still going to stick around and believe him? Look, like Rihanna said, you look so dumb right now, standing outside my house. That's the problem with somebody like a Benjamin Netanyahu. And people keep believing the lie. Here comes Dershowitz. And by the way, get ready, because Max is about to cook.
He lobbied against this inside the White
Israel
House.
started the war with Iran?
American
Israel started
soldiers
the war
to
with
fight
Iran?
and die for a crazy.
Yes, Alan. Israel started a war with Iran. Yes. Jesus Christ. Are you sure this guy's a lawyer?
Little apartheid state, but you have this dynamic where Miriam Adelson has contributed hundreds of millions of dollars to Donald Trump, paying for his campaign. This is an Israeli asset. And now, and this goes to the Tony Blair question that Piers asked, Larry Ellison has contributed something like $300 million to the Tony Blair Institute. And they're going to use that to collect the data of people in Gaza who will be put in, as the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation said in its internal documents, biometric concentration camps after they're ethnically cleansed from the north. And all of
Oh my goodness. Message.
these tech companies, I don't know, Katie, if Elon will be involved in this, but they will come in and reap massive contracts from this Holocaust, and Tony Blair will be shepherding in those contracts as he did in the occupied West Bank as a so-called peace negotiator. This is Tony Blair's real role. And what is Larry Ellison doing in the United States? He's buying Paramount to do a propaganda film, to do propaganda films for Israel. His son is buying CBS, and they'll put Barry Weiss as editor-in-chief. This is the takeover that Netanyahu outlined in the meeting with Deborah Leah and these other influencers that they're seeking to buy and control because they've lost the propaganda war. So it is an 8-front war, and Donald Trump is under, as Tucker Carlson's sources said, Netanyahu's thumb. This is the worst foreign meddling that we have ever witnessed. I agree with Alan that Russiagate was a hoax. This is the real foreign meddling scandal. It's Israel-Gate.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Russiagate was a hoax, but Israeli-Gate is real. Oh, remember what I showed you guys in the beginning? All those people going, man, IPAC is a problem. All these Zionists are a really big problem. You know, they have control of our government, and you know, we can't, you know, we want America to be first. We don't want Israel to be first, because the thing is, like, we need help for our own country. We need help for our own United States. And you know what the crazy part about all this is? A lot of you guys are not getting paid enough. Like, go see, the last segment when I talked about how you need, in many different places, according to the National Low Income Housing Coalition Out of Reach report, you need to make, here in Florida, you need to make at least $37.27 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom, right? You need to make a living wage in order to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment anywhere within in this country, which is far and away above the minimum wage that exists in each state to state. And by the way, the federal minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour right now. And yet we want to send $3.8 billion at minimum. The reason why I say at minimum is because we have given way beyond that just in 2024 alone. But at minimum, $3.8 billion a year to Israel. And by the way, Israel has free healthcare. They also have free college. And they also have free childcare. And what do we have? We have zip, zero, zilch, nothing, nada. Yet, nothing. And yet, we're giving billions of dollars to a nation. Not a nation. An entity that is literally committing a 21st century Holocaust on black and brown people abroad. And yes, I say black and brown people because everybody talks about the brown Palestinians, but nobody's talking about the black Palestinians. And yes, there are black Palestinians there too. So here's the thing. The problem is that we are now starting to wake up and realize this. And this has been the infiltration of our democratic system, or so-called democratic system that we thought that we had, and that Israel is literally doing, they are meddling in our elections. Because guess what? AIPAC, which is one of the biggest arms of the Israel lobby, literally funds a lot of our politicians, right? And of course, they're giving money to people like Donald Trump, but they also gave money to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They're giving money to many people who are in Congress. The state of Florida buys Israel bonds, and Palm Beach County, that county alone buys the most Israeli bonds in the world. That one county. And it's the same county that Jeffrey Epstein had his residence in. And it's also the same county that Mar-a-Lago is located. So when it comes to having a complete takeover of our government, Israel is literally influencing the United States. You do not have influence. Miriam Adelson has influence. Jonathan Greenblatt has influence. I'm blanking on his name already. I think it's not Robert Kraft. I'm thinking of what's his name? That other Bill Ackman. He has influence, right? You have all these people who have influence in our country on behalf of another state. This is why John F. Kennedy is gone. This is why you know what I mean? Because he wanted AIPAC to register as a foreign agent. That's why. And people like Charlie Kirk were actually questioning what Israel is doing before he got assassinated. Coincidence? Maybe. But that's the point. And so when people talk about, the United States is a free democratic country, I want you to stop and look at who pays for who. And I appreciate what Butch Ware said. He quoted, he said, "Who funds you runs you." And also, we cannot get off the hook J Street. And I already did a show about it a few weeks back called KUFI. What is KUFI? KUFI is an acronym for Christians United for Israel, which is basically an evangelical Zionist organization. So they also have the evangelicals in their pockets, especially the pastors, the bishops, the reverends. They have them in their pockets. So this is why Max Blumenthal said what he said. We don't have a Russia problem. We got an Israel problem.
All right, Alan, your response to that and to the Tony Blair report.
Well, I like the idea of Tony Blair. He's not perfect, but he has a lot of credibility. He did a great job in Northern Ireland, and I think he may be the least worst solution, but I cannot avoid commenting about Max. I mean, basically, what he has said about, you know, Jews controlling this sounds like it could
I
have
didn't
been
say Jews.
part of the protocols of the elders.
I
of
didn't say
Zion.
Jews.
He talks about it.
All right, everybody. Let's begin.
Ellison, Ellison
No,
is not
you just
Israeli.
insinuated.
He's a Jew.
No, I said Zionists.
He talks about
Israel firsters
Miriam
like
Adelson,
yourselves.
who's an American. Yeah, I'm not
Israel
an Israel
firster.
firster. I'm an American firster. I'm an
You've
American
dedicated your
firster
career to
who
defending
strongly
Israel.
believes
When you're not
in
defending Jeffrey
democracy.
Epstein, you're
I've
defending
dedicated
Israel.
my career.
Did you hear what he said? He said, wait. He said, when you're not defending Jeffrey Epstein, you're defending Israel. Oh. Max lit the pilot light. It's on.
I dedicated my career to defending Bill Clinton,
And to defending wife
Ted
killers,
Kennedy,
but also to defending Jeffrey Epstein and Israel.
defending
the ultimate wife
You
killer.
want to talk about who I defend? Then talk about John Adams, who defended the killers of people and at the beginning of the American Revolution. Let's get to the merits of this thing. The idea is that America
you
is
advised Jeffrey
an independent
Epstein.
country. Donald Trump is an independent. What did you say?
You were
What did
according
you say
to new
about Jeffrey
emails
Epstein?
that have been according to new emails that were reported by Bloomberg on the 26th of this month. You advised Jeffrey Epstein and wrote You advised.
I was
Jeffrey
his
Epstein.
lawyer.
Jeffrey Epstein is a good person who does.
I was
many
his
good things.
lawyer.
Oh my gosh. The saute pan is on the fire, and now he put in just a little bit of light olive oil, and then he just added the onions, the garlic. He added the mirepoix, right? All right, let's continue. All right.
I was his lawyer after he was indicted. I was.
So did you write
I was his
that Jeffrey
lawyer
Epstein is a good person who does many good things? Because you say you don't remember doing that. That just came out in an email. And you impugned his victims, calling the girls self-described prostitutes. So when you weren't defending Jeffrey Epstein, you're defending an apartheid state.
As a criminal, I am not offending the apartheid state. Israel is the most integrated, least apartheid state of any country in the Middle East.
Right,
in
and
Jordan,
that's why
you
it's
can't buy
annexing the West
property
Bank.
if you're Jewish. In Saudi
where it has a
Arabia,
minority of the
let me finish,
population.
please. Let me finish, please. Look.
Piers, if Max is going to interrupt this whole time, I'm going to jump in too.
Max.
Yeah, well, look, I think it's helpful if we don't all talk over each other.
There's no country in the world that is less apartheid than Israel. It has black ministers. It has Arab justices of the Supreme Court. Every Middle East country prohibits Jews from living there, buying property. In Israel, Arabs are absolutely equal. Israel is not guilty of apartheid. It's not guilty of genocide. Max is essentially a Holocaust denier because when he talks.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so when he talks about how, oh, well, Israel has all these different people of ethnic backgrounds within them. Let me tell you something. Okay. Arabs make 20% of the Israel population, but they fill up well over 50% of their prisons. What does that sound like to you? Okay. Come with me. Yeah. Okay. You think about it? Come with me and you'll see a world of pure imagination. We got to sing that to Alan Dershowitz. Oh, and come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination.
It's about things like the final solution.
You're a Holocaust supporter.
And genocide. What he's saying is that these things didn't happen in Nazi Germany. The idea of Jewish children being walked into the gas chambers.
They did happen in Nazi Germany, and they're happening again.
That's a Holocaust.
But that
isn't happening. That isn't happening in Israel.
And when you
state
you support is carrying out a Holocaust in broad
let
daylight.
me finish, please. Stop interrupting me. Stop interrupting me.
Call me a Holocaust denier.
Self-defense. You are. When you call self-defense Holocaust,
you're a Holocaust supporter.
Confuse trying to kill terrorists with.
Wait, I just want to point something out. I want you guys to look at Max's face right now. This is glorious. Max is really he's enjoying himself. Max is having fun. Look, let me tell y'all something. If ever I get to have Max Blumenthal on, I hope to. Like, if anybody, like, I'm trying to get in touch with Max. This was rich. It was delicious. Because I love seeing people who stand for some type of supremacy. I love seeing them get their behind handed to them. I love it. More of this, please. Insert it into my veins. Look, just like what the Gen Z kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Put it in my veins. Because supremacy has no space in human existence. It should not exist. And yet we have this supremacy of people like Alan Dershowitz, Miss Miller, and I think this young lady over here his name is Leah. But it's supremacy. That's exactly what it is. Let's call a thing a thing. All right, let's continue.
Genocide, you are a Holocaust minimizer and a Holocaust denier. So let's be very clear about that. What Israel's doing
how does that make
is what
sense?
the United
No,
States
I got to say, Alan, I think that
how does that make any sense?
I don't think that is anything that Max has said. So I think it's a wrong thing to say.
What he said
Can I
is
respond in 5 seconds?
The Holocaust by
Benjamin
comparing
Netanyahu is a
to what's
Holocaust
going on in
minimizer.
Gaza.
Benjamin Netanyahu,
What's
your
going
friend,
on
blamed the Holocaust on Palestinians. Benjamin Netanyahu literally blamed the Holocaust of Jews in Europe on
Palestinians. Let's not all talk over each other.
You have to talk about
Don't all talk over each other.
You have to talk about who I support.
Okay, let's not talk over each other.
The idea that you
Let me bring in the other panelists, please. There are 5 people on the panel. Let me bring in somebody else.
If everyone keeps insulting me, I'm going to respond.
All right, let me bring in Deborah. I want to talk about James Comey.
I will stop telling the truth about you if you stop lying about me.
You both said a lot about each other. Let's
okay, Jeffrey Epstein advisor.
Let me ask you.
Oh Lord, Jesus! Wait. Where my spoon at? Okay. Max got in one more dig. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get a spoonful out of this Zionist. I'm gonna get a spoonful out of this supremacist." And next thing you know, oh my gosh, Alan, how's that crow taste? Tasty, dry. You need a cup of water? Boy, let me tell you. And this is the thing. Like, this is why, look, he got cooked. He got cooked. He got cooked. He got braised. He got fried. He got baked. He got broiled. He got air fried. He got fricasseed. He got roasted. He got grilled. And he got smoked. I'm hungry, can you tell? So that's the crazy part. And let's give it a round of applause. Put a round of applause in the chat for Max Blumenthal. Look. Oh my goodness, that was great. Thank you very much for that, Max. Not only were you informative, but you were also entertaining at the same time, which we like you. So everybody, look, I said all I need to say in regards to what was said there, but just keep learning of the accurate history. If you guys can find some Palestinian groups within your area to learn more about what's really going on in the ground and learning the history about what's going on in the ground, please make sure to do so. Here in Florida, there are groups like Students for Justice in Palestine, and you also have the Florida Palestine Network as well. You have those ones like that. Go ahead and learn from those, and then learn from many people, especially the journalists that have been on the ground that actually speak out against what Israel's doing. Max Blumenthal is a great resource. Aaron Mate, Abby Martin, Miko Peled, Dan Cohen. There's Katie Halper is a great resource. There's so many people who are Jewish who actually will tell you. And also, there's a group on Twitter called Torah Judaism. I think they're essentially Orthodox Jews, and they are also against the apartheid state. And they will explain it very simply, and they'll tell you it is not a complex issue. So if you want to hear from Jewish voices on that, go ahead. There's some resources there too. And never stop talking about Palestine, guys. Chef Max. Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you'd like to see any more, you can look here. Forehead kisses. Have